Just want to give, before starting to do two examples, a little bit of history of one of very famous case of biopiracy that probably you have heard, both in the U.S. and in Europe. It is relating to the Rosa periwinkle, and you see the picture there that probably will see many different places around the world. So Lilly was started at the beginning of the 1900s, working on this plant. Particularly, we are looking at the plant in case they have any kind of anti-diabetic effect. That's what we are doing with some Canadian institution and university there. And the plant that we used at that time, we bought in Texas, so it was grown there and was commercially available in the U.S. So it was not coming from any developing country, but at the same time, of course, other companies in Europe and in the U.S. as well, and in Latin America, they were working on this plant for different, maybe for different purpose and different target disease. So the original research for us was on diabetes, but as you know, it ended up at the 1960, they discovered, some researchers, the alkaloid of this plant, and the major effect was on the cancer, particularly on leukemia. And today, some of these chemical compounds that are derived from the vinca are still used for different type of cancer, particularly in combination in different protocols. So one of the points that I want to make there, and that is what my colleagues as well in the research on the legal department are telling me, as I'm not an expert on the genetic resources field, is that at the end it was not the traditional knowledge that was available in the 1920 on the plant, but was the research, long research of the scientists in the lab, as was mentioned in the previous slide. They managed to come to some extraction and have the alkaloid from the plant that were afterward used on the cancer treatment. So one other point that was as well in Lilly at least a trigger for reducing our investment and time in research on natural plant, for example, was the fact that there was a lot of mistrust and misconception, and there was always this idea that the big company were going to biopiracy, some of the product in developing country, keeping in mind that we are talking at research or product that was much before the creation of the Convention on Biological Diversity. That was 30 years before. Here there is one of the examples that we had, there was a successful example, is with the Costa Rica Biodiversity Institute in Bio, that probably many of you knows, because Costa Rica has been one of the countries that have successfully developed a law for the access and benefit sharing. And that's why a lot of pharmaceutical companies, including Lilly, decided it was a kind of safe environment from the legal point of view to go and explore potential opportunity there. So what we did with in Bio at that time, so we were defining a very specific contract steps in which we were providing financial compensation to the institution at different level. So we were, for example, providing payment for collection of extracts from the plant that were in Costa Rica. We were paying, when they were supplying to us the materials. And so we have different steps. And of course, that was very useful for them, because even if the compound was not going to be proven effective in any type of therapy, at least there was already at the early phase a beneficial, a financial benefit for the institution there. One of additional benefit for the Institute of Biodiversity in Costa Rica was as well the transfer of technology that we were providing to them. So we were financing the researcher coming from Costa Rica to the U.S. They were staying in our lab for several months, learning how we were doing the extraction from the plant, and they were going back with the information that were property of Lilly. And in fact, we provide to them indefinite use of our extraction procedure that are still using today in Costa Rica. One additional point of the contract on this specific case was a dispute resolution mechanism. So basically it was a simple one. It was an agreement between the senior management from the two companies that in case there was a misuse or mistrust in the follow-up of the agreement, the senior manager were meeting and discuss how to solve amicably the issue. That was a successful story. Unfortunately, we worked for 2 or 3 years on this lead, and there was not any kind of interest in the result, as shown in the slide before. And after, because of financial constraint, so the company, in mutual agreement with InBio, decided to stop the research because there was not any clear sign that there was going to be any good development, and it was very complex. But that at least was very fruitful for both of us, in particular for the InBio, because we got some of the transfer technology that they can use as well, and they can apply to other plants and as well to other agreements with other companies. The second example that I want to show today is a little bit less successful, I have to say. And this is a potential partnership that we are trying to establish in Cameroon. This is a very recent one. We started in 2007. I just give a little bit of history because I think it's important to understand how the process is complex when you go in the practical term at the country level, because sometimes it's easy on the paper, but then when you have to translate in the real work, that's less easy. So we had a Cameroon research that contact us, our own headquarters that is in Indianapolis, our research center, and ask if we could help him to work on a plant that he believed has some specific property. So automatically the researcher that is in the department go to the legal department, they ask if they can design an agreement for the transfer of materials. So when the legal, of course, department was engaged on this discussion, immediately, we raised the issue with the researcher that we need to go back and check with the local country, with the local government, if there is a law in place, and to ensure that it is in compliance with the CBD. So there we start our, kind of long discussion with different parties. So the researcher, of course, locally tried to find out what was going on, because there was the law in 1994, law on forestry, wildlife, and fishery that apply at the time, and understand how it could, apply to get some permission from the government. That was very, very, very difficult for him to find out. So first step he did, he believed, according to some suggestion from local authority, that he had to register the plant to the local Cameroon herbarium office. So he did. So he got a certificate, and he sent us back the certificate, and he said, based on what the authorities are telling me, I'm allowed now to export the plant and share with you. So we went back again, because looking at the CBD website, each country is usually sending a national report on what they do on the convention. So if you look at the website on the Cameroon National Report, it's very clearly stated that the government has to give authorization for transfer, for exportation. The government has to give authorization for signing agreement in terms of research, and he has as well to have an agreement on the royalty that the company has to pay to the researchers, so to the provider of the genetic resource. So based on all this different information that we got from the website, we went back to him and said, look, we are not going to enter in this agreement because we are a big company. We don't want to enter in any trouble. We are used to, to work in a kind of transparency matter. Can you please go back to your ministry and try to find out if you can comply with this different regulation? So he went back and successfully came back with a certificate, this time from the Ministry of Forestry, in which he was certifying that he was unable to export the material. Unfortunately, there was nothing in the certification. There was no information in terms of allowance for the research agreement. There was no information on the royalty that, according to the report was supposed to be issued by the Minister of Finance. So, and then the certificate, even worse, was given to the researcher only for 3 months. So obviously 3 months, as you understand, for the complexity of the research behind, is not enough, even today, to allow a provider and a researcher to sit down and design an agreement in a good way. So that was already a pre-issue. But in any case, we didn't feel comfortable with the way the certificate was done. And we tried to identify if there was a focal point for the CBD in Cameroon. So we managed to talk informally, and we found out, first of all, that the certificate was issued by the wrong minister. So after all this time that we spent, several months, so the certificate was supposed to be issued by the Minister of Environment. So we went back to the poor guy in the lab there and said, look, the certificate was wrong. So we need to go back